Sukiotu, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is December 8th, 2020. A few housekeeping also before we start. Please display your name for easy identification. Please make sure your audio is muted at all times. If you wish to ask a question, you may type your question at the chat box. Ask verbally, you may raise hand, unmute and talk. Please turn off your microphone after finish asking. One person to speak one time. During guided meditation, please on your video so Bante can see your progress. The meeting room will be locked. We are very fortunate to have with us Bante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bante was born on July 14, 1985. Bante had his Bhikkhu ordination in 2008 under the Thai Dhamma sect at Santi Forest Monastery in Johor. Bante is currently the Vice President of Wat Palelai Buddhist Temple, Singapore. Today is the last few talks for the year. Today's talk is based on dependent origination. After this, Bante will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking our 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let us compose our minds and put our palms together and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Okay, thank you, Terence, for the introduction. We shall start with the homage, Vandana. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipātā viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvāda viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Suramiraya majjapamādāthāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu. All right, today we're starting this session now. So good evening, everybody. We are at the last second class for dependent origination. So we won't go through the beginning portion. Maybe we should start from the 3 life moment wheel model. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a rough, brief run through of the 12 links. So if you look at the diagram, so there are 12 things, 12 links. One is this avidya, ignorance, if you look at the outer wheel. And number 2, sankhara, because of ignorance, not knowing, right? Then we always produce this karmic formations, sankhara activities. And number 3, there are 2 interpretations in the suttas. It's called vijnana or consciousness. Right? It's our 6 sense basis: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Yeah, so eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue consciousness, so on and so forth. But the post-canonical version, they change this to this patisanti vijnana, rebirth linking consciousness. So it becomes a total different process. Okay, so I'm going to go through the suttas example, yeah, with the 6 sense basis consciousness. So when there's this consciousness arise, is dependent on we call it the 6 sense spheres, depending on the object we see, right? For example, the screen, and dependent on our eye organ, right? We have the eye sense door, and then eye consciousness arise. And when these 3 things meet, it is called contact, right? So this whole thing is called nama, rupa, mind, and matter. They are the 5 aggregates, right? So when we see something, the screen is a form, yeah? It has shape, maybe a rectangular shape. It has colors, right? It has the form, and it has perception. You give the labels. It is called mind and matter, perception. And then we have this, it goes through the 6 sense spheres, has contact, and then followed by feeling. So when we have contact, then feeling will arise. Either you find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So this from number 1 to 7 is this a natural kind of a reflex kind of action. It's a natural cycle, natural process. So from number 8 onwards, craving is basically our man-made kind of suffering. So when we have craving, then it produces this upadana, attachment or clinging, then followed by bhava. Bhava means becoming. The sense of identity, sense of I, sense of self exists because of this craving. Yeah? And once the sense of I is there, then I will experience birth. I will experience aging, decay, and death. So that's 11 and 12 points. So this is like the cycle of this wheel of life. But then if we insert or change the definition of this number 3, this rebirth linking consciousness, what will happen is they will use sankhara as the karmic force to push this consciousness into a womb. So they call it rebirth linking consciousness. So the womb, the physical fetus, is called matter, body. And this consciousness is called mind. So it's called mind and matter. So it becomes number 4. So that's the main difference. They change, and by changing this, the whole 12 cycles has to be split up into 3 portions, past, present, and future. So this is the post-canonical version, which in the previous sessions, we talked about some of the illogical fallacies. It's like, hey, in the present life, you have 1 birth already. Then next life, you need another birth again. So the next life don't need to see, hear, smell, think, taste, and touch. Right? But this lifetime, you got 6 sense spheres. Next life don't have. And the previous life also don't have. So there's something wrong with the 12, this 3 lifetime model. And we also talk about how this rebirth linking consciousness in the Theravada tradition, they talk about immediate rebirth. That means once a person passes away, the consciousness immediately travels to the womb and immediate rebirth. So we talk about, if that's the case, if you want to be reborn as a human, do we need to wait for a couple to have sexual intercourse before we pass away? Right? We even joked about creating an app. We subscribe to an app, linked to a user, who has the same personality. You can choose which person you want to be reborn as a child, or see which couple you want to be as a parent, and have a notification before they have this intercourse. Okay, this is a good time to die. So let's pass away now. So again, there's lots of fallacies, contradictions in the Theravada explanation of this rebirth linking consciousness. Okay, so I will go the next slide. We talk about how this misinterpretation comes about. From this example, this Maha Nidana Sutta, which is the we call the original canon. So the Buddha gives example. No? If you read that the first paragraph, the last sentence, if consciousness were not to descend into the mother's womb, who would name and form take shape in the womb, right? So that's what the Buddha asked, and Venerable Ananda would say, no, no, Lord. Yeah. So if after descending into the womb, consciousness were to depart, would aim and form be produced for this world? And this Venerable Ananda said, no, Lord. So if the consciousness of the young boy or girl were to be cut off, would name and form ripen, grow, and reach maturity? And Venerable Ananda said, no, Lord. So because of this statement, this consciousness is the commentaries name it as rebirth linking consciousness. It is not the same as the sixth sense basis consciousness because it has two different functions altogether. In the sixth sense basis consciousness, it's immediate here and now. That means we see something, there's eye consciousness, hear something, ear consciousness. So there's no death taking place and there's no rebirth taking place literally. That means your body is still your body, there's no dying and no body getting pregnant and conception taking place. Whereas this rebirth linking consciousness require conception. So it's a very different process, right? So again, I mentioned in a few times, this is just an example. So if when the Buddha talked about when life starts to take place in the womb, the beginning of life, then consciousness would start to take effect. And when consciousness take effect, then there's this name and form, the five aggregates. All right. So it can happen at any point of life. It doesn't have to be start off with the fetus. But even right now, when we see something, there's consciousness. If let's say our consciousness is gone, we pass out, then there's no name and form. There's no creation of the world. All right. So this is the explanation. Okay. So next, and we also quickly covered, the different levels, the different spectrums or qualities of consciousness, from the desire realm all the way to the different jhanic realms. Next. And we talk about the method 2, how to sort of escape from samsara by moving, upgrading from the desire sense sphere, the 6 sense spheres, to the form consciousness, and slowly to the formless, and slowly escaping formless to nibbana or cessation. Okay, next. Right, so next we talk about this Bodhisattva. The Buddha contemplated the 12 links using the jhana. So this is the late Venerable Dr. Punaji's model on this the 12 links, so which I won't go through. Okay, next. And next. Okay, so today we are starting off with a new topic called the case against rebirth linking consciousness. Right, I'm not denying there's no rebirth. Yes, there's rebirth, but it's a total different process. It is not at the number 3rd process of the 12 links of dependent origination. Okay, so this is the story of this Maha Sankhaya Sutta, very long name. Okay, so B stands for the Buddha. So he asked, there's this monk called Sati. Yeah, not mindfulness. Sati with a long A, so it's a different meaning. So it's the name of a monk. So he has this, according to the story, is that this Sati is a prominent storyteller of the Buddha's past lives. So by saying on the different Buddha's past life, maybe something like the Jataka tales, then he believed this consciousness is the one traveling round and round in samsara, and he attributed this process as the dependent origination. And he was brought forward to the Buddha, and the Buddha questioned him. Is it true, Sati, that this pernicious view has arisen in you? As I understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, it is just this consciousness that runs and wanders on, not another. And this Sati replied, exactly so, Lord. As I understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, It is just this consciousness that runs and wanders on, not another. So again, because we mentioned there are so many definitions of consciousness, right? So the Buddha asked, which consciousness, Sati, is that? Then the Sati replied, this speaker, this knower, Lord, that is sensitive here and there to the ripening of good and evil karmas. Right? So they talk about this knower, this knowing. So some maybe meditation instructions from other systems will tell you, stay with the knowing mind, stay with the awareness, stay with the knower. So what are you staying with? Yeah. Next. Okay, and Buddha replied, and to whom, worthless man, do you understand me to have taught the Dhamma like that? Haven't I in many ways said of dependent co-arisen consciousness? Apart from a requisite condition, there's no coming into play of consciousness. But you, through your own poor grasp, not only slender us, but also dig yourself up by the root and produce much demerit for yourself. That will lead to your long-term harm and suffering. So the Buddha is trying to explain what is this consciousness that he taught in dependent origination. So consciousness, monks, is classified simply by the requisite condition, independence on which it arises, consciousness that arises in dependence on the I, and forms is classified simply as I consciousness. And consciousness arises dependence on the ear, right? And the sounds, that is ear consciousness, so on and so forth, your nose, your tongue, and the body, which is your nervous system, and the mind, which is your thoughts, your intellect. So total, there are 6 senses and 6 sense consciousness, right? So which is explained in the first paragraph. And the second paragraph is giving an analogy, an example. Just as fire is classified simply by whatever requisite condition in dependence on which it burns, a fire that burns in dependence on wood is classified simply as wood fire. A fire that burns in dependence on wood chips is classified as wood chip fire. Then if fire burn on grass, is a grass fire, burns in cow dung, as cow dung fire, so on and so forth. So it's a different kind of fire, although it looks similar. So it's trying to say, whatever you see, right, the sight cannot be translated as smell, right? You cannot see smell unless, again, Jen is not around. Is he around? Previously mentioned, there's this 7th sense. There are rare few individuals who perceive things differently. They can hear colors or smell taste, or smell sound or something like that. So they have a mixture. The rewiring of the brain is different. So they have this, they call it 7th sense, right? Unless you're that kind of individual. But if not, then it's a different kind of experience, different kind of consciousness. So the Buddha wants us to see things in terms of separate classification, moment by moment consciousness, so as to break away from the delusion and the clinging of permanence. He's not denying there is consciousness. Yes, there is, and he's not denying the process of this rebirth, which is also there, right? He's just dependent origination is a different process from rebirth. Yeah. Okay. Next. And the second case study is this Brahma Jala Sutta talks about people who can see past lives. Okay, so earlier on in the previous lessons, we talked about why people want to hold on if the issues or the problems faced when people believe strongly in the 3 lifetime model. There are some schools who believe in that, and if they follow that without maybe changing their view and they believe that is the way forward, then they have to, let's say, see past lives in order to understand the 12 links of dependent origination, because the first 2 links is the past life, and the rest of the links, supposedly to be the future, is your previous life on the birth and death. So like 11 and 12. So you need to see the past lives in order to see all 12 links. So there's a lot of school of thought which, in order to sort of promote, encourage people to see, have this right view of dependent origination, they need to spend many hours to see past lives, which is the success rate is not very high, right? Because this kind of thing is developing these psychic abilities, this divine eye is not an easy task. It's a different circular samadhi kind of practice. And then this is a case study. Let's say for those people who specialize in seeing past lives, specialize in developing these abilities, but do they have right view? Right. So this is the story. So in the case of first case, bhikkhu, some recluse or Brahmin, that means any practitioner, by means of an other endeavor, application, diligence, and right reflection, attains to such a degree of mental concentration that with his mind thus concentrated, purified, unblemished, devoid of corruptions, he recollects his numerous past lives. That is, he recollects 1 birth, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, many eons of past lives. Okay, that is only the feeling of those who do not know and do not see. That is only the agitation and vacillation of those who are immersed in craving. Okay, so I put ... because there are various views. There are yogis who see past lives and come to a conclusion. Okay, the world is infinite, not infinite. The time of the universe is infinite. The rebirth, there's no beginning, and they believe, some believe there's no end. That means they'll continue round and round samsara. And some yogis who have passed, can see past life, believe one day there will be an end, as long as we get liberated. So that is another kind of belief, very similar to what we Buddhists have now. And some yogis, maybe they cannot even see past lives, but they believe, through logic and through reasoning, they believe there's many past lives. Also, the Buddha said it will be a wrong view as long as there's still agitation and suffering and craving. So right now, even if you believe these 12 links of dependent origination is here and now, right? As long as there's still craving and suffering, then there's still troubleshooting to be done. Then there's still some wrong view. Okay, so this is the short summary of this Brahmajala Sutta, all kinds of views. Okay, next. And another classical example is the name of Bhante Kovido's monastery, Susima, based on this sutta, actually, this Susima Sutta. So this Susima is actually a spy from maybe another, belong to another group that want to know, hey, how come Buddhism is so successful? What is the ingredient of its success? Why is it flourishing? Why is it growing? So he managed to become a monk, right? This Susima managed to become a monk, and he wants to find out what is the formula of success. And he managed to, among the crowd of monks interact, and he managed to overhear a group of new monks. They declare that they are enlightened. They declare openly, they reach enlightenment. So the Susima is so excited. So he went up to them and interviewed them and asked them these questions about these psychic abilities. So the first question he asked, are you able to see your past lives? Can be 1 life, 10 lives, 20 lives, 100 lives, many eons, whatever, however the amount. Then these new monks that declared enlightened, they said, no, we cannot see our past lives. And then he asked further, how about can you see other people's past lives? And the monk said, no, cannot see. And do you have divine eye? Can you see the angels, the ghosts? And can you see long distances? And this monk said, no, we don't have. How about divine ear? How about hearing, long range, divine beings? And they said no as well. And asked about mind reading, no, don't have. How about telekinesis? Can you fly, move objects with the mind? No, cannot also. And he was thinking, what rubbish? What is this? Why? What's so great about Buddhism then? And what is so great about this teaching? So he went straight up to the Buddha. The Buddha happened to came back, and he asked the Buddha about this incident. I interviewed your monks, and your monks, enlightened monks, say they cannot do all this. So what's so great about your teaching? Why are you so successful? So the Buddha taught him of the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental volition, and consciousness. And from there, after understanding the 5 aggregates, then he taught this dependent origination, which then, according to this Susima Sutta, he saw the Dhamma, he saw the truth. And the Buddha asked back the same question back to Susima. Now, after seeing this truth, so I take it that he reached enlightenment, this Susima. So, can you see your past lives? And Susima said, hey, no, I cannot see past life. And how about, can you see other people's past life? Then Susima said, hey, no, I cannot see other people's past life. How about, can you do all the other things, mind reading, the flying and whatever? And he said, no, cannot. Right? So then this Susima finally realized his mistake and asked forgiveness from the Buddha. So this is the quote, right, from the conversation. The Buddha asked this Susima about dependent origination. Do you see that from cessation of ignorance, there is a cessation of fabrications? They said, yes, Lord. And so on and so forth, all the 12 links. And that's why if he cleared ignorance, that means he reached enlightenment. Then, having known thus, having seen thus, Susima, do you recollect your manifold past lives and so on and so forth? And he said no. Right. So again, this dependent origination, it's clearly stated in this sutta is that it's nothing to do with seeing past lives or nothing to do with the 3 lifetime model. All right, and the next. Okay, so this one we're going to talk about next time, next lesson. So I'm going to leave the floor open for questions and answers. All right, any questions from the floor or from the Facebook comments? Yes, Terence.
From this link, can we say that this one is only applicable for human?
Yeah, you might be correct. Yeah, because the 6th sense basis, there's some beings in the heavenly realm that say mind-only body. Yeah, but the application from craving onwards is very similar. Because the other beings, they have the divine senses. So that divine senses also has this contact and craving and so on. So the application of 4 noble truths more or less is the same. Yeah. So there are some realms in the the common Buddhist understanding is not to be reborn. It's a no, try not to reborn there. Yeah? Like we mentioned, like the there's one realm very interesting in the 4th jhana. It's called the body-only realm, or is it the mind? I forgot what's the name. There's no mind. Yeah, there's this interesting realm. There's no mind. So it's something like there's just a physical body, no mind, or ethereal kind of body, no mind. So it's a mindless realm. Yeah, mindless realm. So these beings like that, something like vegetable, they can't think or whatever it is. So there's some, I don't know whether it's a misunderstanding or some form of discrimination that they don't want to be reborn there. All right, any other questions? No, all understand. No doubt. All clear.
Bante,
Yes, really.
There's one question from Facebook.
Yeah.
The comment is a bit long. I'll try to read it slow. Good evening, Bante. When the subject rebirth is touched on, is it about a person who is born with all the senses and organs intact, with full functions of the aggregates? There are people
What's the first time you mentioned when the person with?
The person who is born with full senses and organ intact.
Okay, all right.
Full functions of aggregates.
Okay.
There are people who are born deaf or blind.
Okay.
How does this come about in the rebirth cycle, who will decide one will become deaf or dumb?
Okay. Yeah, this one can be related to our previous series on karma. We talk about karma, why some people are born, with certain health problems. Probably in the past life, probably they've might have harmed somebody. So that is the at least our theoretical, metaphysical understanding, right? But of course, if you meet whoever people who are handicapped here and now, we do need to practice compassion and help them in whatever way we can. Yeah. All right. I hope that answers the question.
Right. Thank you, Bante.
Okay, Hui Wen, you have a question earlier.
Bante, just now you say the third consciousness, right? Is it like the discrete? Is it like discrete consciousness, like popping up?
Oh, okay.
Like yeah, not like one whole set of consciousness. Is it like for example, I hear something, then the ear consciousness pop up, then I see something, then the eye consciousness.
Yeah, the consciousness means to be conscious, to be aware. So the opposite would be unconscious, not knowing, not perceiving. Right. So as long as you can perceive, what you're seeing on the screen, that is eye consciousness. If you are hearing, that is called ear consciousness. So if, let's say I'm speaking and maybe somebody is daydreaming, so they're not using their ear consciousness. Yeah, ear consciousness not present. Right? Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Then, sorry, can you repeat the just now the MN38, that one? That's like I don't get what you said at the end.
MN38. Okay, you have
That's
to.
like
What was the name of the sutta again? Oh yeah, okay. It's Maha Sankaya. Okay, so basically, the Buddha is trying to explain this consciousness in the dependent origination. So next slide. So the Buddha is in the second paragraph. The Buddha is trying to explain consciousness in terms of the six sense bases, and not the consciousness that's wandering around through the cycles of rebirth. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. He's not trying to deny rebirth. It is a different process, not to be mixed around. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the ground? Okay. If not, we stop here for a short break. If there's no other questions, then we come back. Now it's 9:06. We come back 5 minutes later. So 9:11. 9:11 we'll be back for the guided meditation sitting. So see you all later. Okay, so we shall start with the guided meditation. So you find a comfortable sitting posture. Make sure the back is upright. And the muscles are relaxed. So because today's theme is on dependent origination, so we are actually doing the same meditation routine, but using dependent origination to explain. Okay, so once we are relaxed and comfortable, then we start off in the first phase of meditation on the visualization of the human biology, this Asubha meditation. So we start off with the hair, right? Our hair of the head. So when we visualize something, a part of the body that is using our mind door, because our eyes are closed, so we're using the mind. So whatever you visualize may not be exactly what it looks like if you look at a mirror, right? So this is the mind door. So again, when we see something, that is, we have contact, we have feeling. So either you have pleasant or unpleasant kind of feeling when you see the object. So we can go to the two extremes, either greed, you like your hair, you like the hairstyle, your hair is so beautiful, you like your hair. So there is greed. So there's one form of extreme, which will lead to, eventually lead to this suffering. And the other extreme will be hatred in this unpleasant feeling. Your hair, very messy, very you don't like the fashion, and dirty or whatever it is. Then you have aversion, anger. So there are two extremes. So what we are doing, we are trying to reduce the desire by counteracting these two extremes. So we are going to first apply loving kindness to the hair. So we're going to first wish the hairs well and happy. So all the hairs of the head, may they be well and happy. And the hairs of the face, and slowly to the rest of the body, of the hairs, bodily hairs, may they be well and happy. And once we are at peace with the hair, then we introduce the other right thought, which is non-greed. And we're going to introduce impermanence. So all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So the hairs grow long, they get dirty, oily, sweaty, they turn white, and they crack when it's dry, and eventually they fall off. Every day we have lots of hair falling off. And then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? It's independent origination as long as there's greed, and then they'll be clinging to that emotion of this greed or hatred, and it will arise this sense of personality, sense of I, sense of self, or our selfishness, our ego. Right? So when we practice detachment, you observe, right? Is this selfishness or ego, is it increasing or decreasing? So without loving kindness, you straight away look at these birth, aging, sickness, and death, and it's like normal suffering. Yeah. Untrained mind also look at aging, sickness, and death because of the clinging and ego. Then they magnify the experience of the suffering. But with loving kindness, this desire reduce, and we observe this birth and death, then there will be more detachment. And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. So all these nails, they go through this birth and death. They grow long, they get dirty, they collect dirt, they discolor, sometimes due to a disease or malnutrition. They go through wear and tear, scratches, cracks, and sometimes they even chip off. And then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize our teeth, all the teeth in our mouth. We wish all the teeth well and happy. All the upper rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to this birth and death. They change in shape and size. They discolor, turn yellow, turn brown, and they turn black. It's tooth cavities. They grow holes, and they get shaky, and eventually they fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? And we are going to think next our skin. We're going to wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. The organ that surround the entire body, may all the skin be well and happy. And all the skin are subject to this birth and death. So the skin get oily, sweaty, dirty. They wrinkle when it's older, and cracks when it's dry, and all sorts of skin problems, skin irritation, turn red, allergies, pimples, boils. And the dead skin, they fall off every day. Lots of dead skin fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death? And next we are moving to the second phase of meditation, is focusing on the breathing. So we're going to feel the breath, there's no need to visualize. So we're going to isolate the attention to one small point below the nostril, above the upper lip. So it's gentle attention, no forcing, no pushing, very gentle attention. And no need to control the breathing. Let your in and out breath be your natural reflex action. The only thing we need to do is, whenever there's an inhalation, we wish the breath well. And whenever there's an exhalation, we wish the breath happy. So it's loving kindness to the breath. We make friends with the breath first. Is the most important step. Same with the dependent origination, reduce desire and reduce this attachment. A lot of meditators, when they want to focus on breathing, they dive straight into trying to fix the mind and keeping the mind still. So the more they coerce and force the mind to be still, the more suffering they have. Because they don't work on reducing desire. So in our case, we focus on the process, wish the breath well and happy, and the byproduct will be the mind stilling or settling down by itself. Breathe in well, breathe out happy. And once you find that you are relatively at peace with the breath, then you can introduce the truth, right? So it's a diplomatic kind of way of handling the situation. Feed it with loving kindness. Once it's happy, then we introduce the truth. So we are going to observe the phenomenon of impermanence. When breathe in and out, there's definitely impermanence, because if there's no impermanence, our breath will definitely stop and we won't be alive. And if you want to fine-tune, want to search something deeper, there are these things called the 4 elements. So the earth element represents any hard and soft sensations of the breath. So when you breathe in and out, if there's any change of density, then there's a birth and death of the earth element. And the fire represents heat, hot and cold, wind, fast, slow movements, and water, moist or dry. So the whole idea is not to purposely generate these sensations, but to passively observe its natural kind of occurrences. But the whole idea is to keep noting or keep observing this impermanence. So the more we observe this impermanence, the more the mind will detach and settle further, settle down, as you know, because the craving is reduced. So a lot of times when people, let's say, attend Dhamma talks or some meditation, they think of a very nice concept, nice philosophy, you know, impermanence or non-self or emptiness. Right? They just think for 1 second and that's it. No, right? So in our case, we have lots and lots of right thoughts and lots of right effort. You have to continuously and keep repeatedly think of this impermanence. So there's lots of thinking in my meditation. Yeah. So the right effort is not the forceful kind of effort, but the consistent repetition. Because the mind is like that. Once we stop applying skillful or right thoughts and we just leave it alone, naturally all kinds of stray thoughts will enter. Yeah? Start to daydream, start to worry, and maybe start to fall asleep. So we need to think. There's an intentional kind of thinking. So you can repeat impermanence like a mantra. So whatever labels you want to use, rising and falling, birth and death, impermanence, inconstancy, whatever, yeah? Okay, once the mind is still, we are attempting, right, to enter different levels of concentration. Let's see how far we can go. Yeah. So once the mind is still, make sure you remember the emotion. Very important. It's like remembering a landmark. So we are going to a new destination, so you don't want to get lost, or you want to recognize the place. So it's good to take note of the signposts and the landmarks. So in this case, we are trying to remember the emotion. Very important. So in this level, current level, the emotion is most probably bland, like nothing, yeah, very plain, very bland. And second thing you need to take note is the mind needs to be calm and detached. So to be detached, you need to keep on recollecting this impermanence. Okay, if you think your mind is settled, then we can make a wish in the mind to let go of this state, yeah? This state of mind. So it's just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, we sort of take a step back. That means do not interfere. Let the mind evolve naturally by itself. What we need to do is just observe its transition, see whether there's any change of emotion. And if we are at the first level, right, the indicator will be this pleasant emotion. So the bland emotion is gone, so it's now taken over by pleasant emotion. Technically, it's called joy and happiness, but you cannot differentiate, never mind. Just know it's a pleasant emotion. And remember this emotion and also continue with the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. Because if we do not be mindful of impermanence of the breath, then we call it clinging to form. So there are three kinds of clinging: desire clinging, form clinging, and formless clinging. Continue with this impermanence until the mind settles down. So the settling of the mind is due to reduction of desire. And once the mind is settled down, then you can enjoy this experience, remember this emotion, and also not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. And once the mind is calm and you remember this emotion, then we can attempt to increase the level. So we do the same thing, make a wish to let go of the mind just like a child letting go of a balloon. So once we release the mind, we take a step back without interfering. We let it evolve naturally by itself. And if we have arrived at the second level, then it will be a different indicator, different pleasant emotion. It's actually technically a more intense form of joy and happiness due to the lack of this initial and sustained thinking of certain thought processes. So we are going to remember this emotion and also not forgetting the impermanence of the breath to reduce this clinging and let the mind settle down. And if your mind has settled down, then you can enjoy this experience, remember this emotion, and also not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. Okay, and once the mind is calm, now we are going to reverse the order. We're going to go stun. So now we are making a wish for the mind to go down to the first level. So as the mind descends, basically you're finding your way back. That's why you need to remember the emotion. And if the mind is back down to level 1, then the indicator or the emotion should change again to a different pleasant emotion, less intense than the second level. Then you take note of this emotion and the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle. And once the mind is settled, then we go down back to ground zero, the original one-pointedness of the breath. So as the mind descends, then we observe the change of emotion. And once you're at level zero, make sure the emotion is bland again, no more pleasant emotions. Then you take note of this bland emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. So this is the desire realm consciousness, yeah? So at every level of consciousness, there is all, or rather every level of concentration, there is still subject to clinging. You need to apply this impermanence. So when the mind is at down at this gross level, these six senses, you also do the same thing. Right? So if your mind has settled down, then we can spread the awareness throughout the rest of the body. There's no need to focus on the breath anymore. You can feel your fingertips, can feel your toes. And once we are done with that, then we are going to transit to the third phase of meditation. We are going to lift the travel restrictions of the mind. So now the mind can fly around anywhere and everywhere. Like the mind autopilot, we don't deliberately fixate the mind. We don't direct the mind anywhere. Okay, so then you're thinking, hey, now the mind is all over the place, what to do? So this is a scattered state of mind. So the exercise is using these six senses. How are we going to practice detachment? Right, so the same principle applies. We are going to observe the impermanence of these sense doors. So every moment you need to have this real-time contact tracing of your attention, yeah? So you have to ask, where is your attention now? So every moment you need to know, yeah? So in order to help you assist to trace your mind, we can use the four elements, the earth, fire, wind, water, and the sensations, right? The hard, soft sensation, warm, cold, movements, and so on. So wherever your attention jumps, it moves, that is a wind element. And when your attention is at a particular area, that spot consists of all the other elements. So the whole idea is to be a passive observer because you truly want to understand the workings of the mind. So let it be as natural as possible. We just observe, yeah? So natural doesn't mean we fall asleep and don't do anything. We observe the mind and we understand how to practice detachment in this state of mind. So this state of mind is the kind of mind we have almost throughout most of the 24 hours. It's like when we are resting and doing nothing. So this is the state of mind. But in this case, we apply the right contemplation. So every time this attention moves around, you can, if you want, you can break this attention into the 5 aggregates, right? Form, feeling, perception, mental volition, and consciousness. Yeah, actually 5 in 1. Right? So when the attention moves, right, that is actually the activities. That's a karma. That's activities. The second link. The attention itself, that is the consciousness, right? It can be from your hearing, that's the ear consciousness. And if I stop talking, where is your attention now? So if it jumps to another area, right, that transition from the hearing to somewhere else, that is mental formation, sankhara. So from sankhara, then that attention is produced, right? Maybe from a sense of touch, sense of hearing, whatever it is. So that's using your sense consciousness. And that consciousness is dependent on your sense organs. And it will produce a feeling. And when you pay attention to something, it will produce a feeling, either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And if we don't apply any form of contemplation, then the mind will have this default programming. Right? Greed will naturally follow through after this pleasant feeling, and hatred will follow through right after unpleasant feeling. And the neutral feeling will have this delusion. Right? So the 3 forms of craving. So to counter them, right? Maybe for now we use impermanence. So you keep observing this impermanence of the mind, or this attention, or these 5 aggregates, until there's a reduction of this craving. And when there's reduction of craving, there should be a reduction of clinging, and thus this ego or sense of self should reduce. Okay, so after observing these 6 senses, then now enlarge the mind. So we're going to wish all beings well and happy, all directions. So this time we deliberately, extend the mind, but we apply, using whatever we learned before, or whatever wisdom we've gained. So when you extend the mind out, reach the mind out, how to do it in a way without clinging, without any tension or any stress or any strain to the mind. Okay, then again, before we conclude the session, just another gentle reminder from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. If a person were to have this cultivate this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, then this is the highest conduct. And with that in mind, we can physically end the meditation, right? Physically conclude, we can open our eyes, but mentally we are still meditating. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock, slightly past 10. Any issues or problems from the ground? No, all okay? Oh, well and happy. Yeah, okay, so then we can end the session in the dedication chant.
Bante, can I ask something first?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, just now you during the meditation, we are supposed to observe pleasant, unpleasant feeling.
Yeah.
If the feeling is pleasant, then there's clinging and craving. If it's unpleasant, is there also craving and clinging as well?
Yeah, craving comes in various forms. So if it's greed, that is because of pleasant feeling. And the other form of craving is hatred. Yeah, hatred also constitutes craving. Because of unpleasant feeling, then the default programming will be, we react with anger.
So that is also part of.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you. I think there's really type something in the chat.
Oh, is it? Okay. Let's read. Bhante, what is the difference between the meditation based on dependent origination on Asupa and the meditation based on Abhidhamma? Thank you, Bhante. Wow, okay. So I'm not the Abhidhamma expert, so I won't comment. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, Hui-Wen, yeah.
Bhante, just now you mentioned neutral feeling is delusion.
Yeah,
or
correct.
something like that. Did I or what? You mean like all neutral feelings are delusion?
Yeah, the default programming, if we don't do anything, our mind don't contemplate after these neutral feelings, there will be this delusion, which is a sense of permanence. Everything is okay, everything is nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before the contemplation, if I feel like very neutral, that's because I'm not doing enough, is it?
No, it depends on whether are you having this right contemplation every moment. If the neutral feeling is produced by constant right thoughts, then probably that would be tranquility or equanimity. So there are different kinds of neutral emotion and neutral feelings. There's a very circular kind of neutral feeling, to the concentration kind of neutral feeling, which is equanimity and beyond. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I think just now you mentioned during the part 3, right? Like after contemplating on the impermanence of the mind, like the attention moving around,
Yeah.
we're supposed to feel a decrease in the sense of self. But then I don't see any difference.
Okay.
Because I'm not doing properly.
Yeah, probably not detached enough. So it takes some time to reduce this desire, because this is a short class. That's why we do it shortly. In your time, you're supposed to do it as long as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure about the before, like the before the contemplation. Then I don't even know what's the before.
Yeah,
then
then
cannot
before
compare.
would be, yeah, before would be not mindful. It's a natural anger response or greed response. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Anumodana, dedication of merits. Akasata ca bhumata devanaga mahitika punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakantu loka sasanam etavata ca amhehi sampadang punya sampadang sabe deva sabe buddha sabe sata anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Transference of merits to departed. Idang menyadinang hotu sugita hontu nyatayo. Idang menyadinang hotu sugita hontu nyatayo. Idang menyadinang hotu sugita hontu nyatayo. And aspiration, imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo. Sata samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, yeah.
Bhante,
Any announcement from parents?
don't have
Okay, don't
Bhante.
have.
See you next
Okay,
week.
good night and see you all next week.
Last week already, is it?
For the year.
Okay. So next week is the
For
last
2020.
week. All right. Okay.
Nice.
So see you all.
Sadhu.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. No problem. Good night.
Bhante.